This video is a very brief overview of the absolute basics of genetics to know when you first learn about a DMD variant in your family. Genetics can be complicated, so at the end, I will also provide resources for where you could learn more. From this video, you will learn the answers to questions like, what are DNA, genes, and exons? What is the X chromosome, and what do we know about how DMD variants are inherited? At its root, DNA is the instructions that our body uses to inform how it grows and functions. Every cell in our bodies has the same DNA, but each cell activates the DNA differently to create what it needs to do its job. If we zoom in on any cell in the body, we find a structure a bit like this. In the middle of a cell is housed all of our DNA in structures called chromosomes. Everyone has 23 pairs of chromosomes, and each pair contains different parts of our DNA's instructions. A chromosome is just a really tightly coiled bundle of DNA, which you can see unraveled here. All the instructions our body needs are made up of different arrangements of just 4 molecules called DNA bases or nucleotides. They're often represented by the letters A, T, G, and C. Along a huge strand of DNA, there are defined sections of A's, T's, G's, and C's that have a specific role, and each of those sections is called a gene. Let's focus on the DMD gene for a moment. Most genes' job is to contain the instructions to make a protein. The protein that the DMD gene makes is called dystrophin, or dystrophin. Either pronunciation is correct. One of the jobs of the dystrophin protein is to bind to other proteins in a muscle cell, helping to create stability when the muscle moves. If the dystrophin protein is not working correctly, it leads to damage that causes the muscle symptoms seen in Duchenne, Becker, and some carriers. Dystrophinopathy is an umbrella term that refers to all of these conditions as a group, because people with Duchenne, Becker, and carrier symptoms all have disease-causing variants that affect the dystrophin protein. Just like how our DNA instructions are subdivided into genes, the DMD gene itself is subdivided into smaller sections of DNA called exons. These 79 exons all fit together like puzzle pieces to provide the complete instructions for creating the dystrophin protein. This image shows how groups of exons contribute to making specific parts of the DMD gene, such as the first 8 exons creating the section that binds to the actin protein, or this long section in the middle that makes the main body of the dystrophin protein. Most people who have a damaging DMD variant have either a deletion or a duplication of one or more of these exons, which disrupts the way that they fit together and results in the body making less working dystrophin, or none at all. Now, as a reminder, if you zoom in on these exons, you're going to find those letters, the nucleotide bases that make up all DNA. There are a couple steps in between, but these letters ultimately provide all the information to make the protein. Each group of 3 letters provides the instructions for the body to bring in a different building block to create a protein called an amino acid. We're representing amino acids with ovals for this video. The body reads those groups of 3 letters to bring in the correct amino acid to build the protein. And there can be a damaging genetic variant at this level too. If one or a handful of letters are deleted, duplicated, or changed, it can lead to the wrong amino acid being added, or not adding amino acids at all. There can even be genetic changes outside of the exons that affect the way amino acids fit together. You can learn more about the different types of variants that cause dystrophinopathy on our website. To understand how dystrophinopathy conditions run in families, we have to zoom back out to this big bunch of chromosomes that are found in all of our cells. As you know, each pair of chromosomes includes many different genes that have different functions in the body. For 22 pairs of our chromosomes, called autosomes, a child typically receives one random copy of the chromosome from their biological father's sperm cell and another random copy from their biological mother's egg cell. But shown here at the bottom are a different type of chromosome, the sex chromosome. These chromosomes contain many different types of instructions, but importantly, they also help define our sex at birth. Typically, girls and women have two X chromosomes, while boys and men have one X chromosome and one Y chromosome. This is important because the DMD gene is on the X chromosome. It isn't found on the Y chromosome at all, so most boys have only one copy of the DMD gene, while most girls have two copies. That's the main driver for why DMD variants usually cause worse symptoms in boys than girls. You typically only need one working copy of the DMD gene to make enough dystrophin for your body to work. But when a variant is running in the family, it could mean some family members inherit no working copy of DMD. Here is one of the most common ways we see DMD variants run in a family. Because many carriers have no symptoms, a DMD variant could be in a family for many generations before it is inherited by a son who has Duchenne or Becker. Each child receives one sex chromosome from each biological parent, completely at random. Boys are expected to always get their Y chromosome from the sperm cell, but from the egg cell, they have a 50% chance to receive the copy of the DMD gene that works correctly, and a 50% chance to receive the copy that has the variant. Girls are expected to receive an X chromosome from the sperm cell, and from the egg cell, they also have a 50% chance to receive the working copy and a 50% chance to receive the copy with the variant. When a man with Duchenne or Becker has children, the only X chromosome in his sperm is the version that has the DMD variant. That means that every girl he has would be expected to be a carrier of the variant, but his sons would receive his Y chromosome and would not be expected to develop symptoms. Sometimes when we do genetic testing, we only find a variant in a child and not their biological parents. There are a couple reasons that could happen. The first is called a de novo variant. This describes when a genetic variant develops randomly at the time someone is conceived. It wouldn't be found in the parents because it was new in the child when the egg and sperm first came together. You can find de novo variants in anyone, no matter their sex. You know how I said every cell in the body has the same DNA? That is almost always true, but there are rare cases where the DNA in someone's egg or sperm is different from the DNA in their blood, saliva, or other parts of their body due to a random variant. This is called germline mosaicism or gonadal mosaicism. We wouldn't be able to find the variant through genetic testing, but there is a risk that they pass on an egg or a sperm cell that has the variant. There is no way to know just how much of their eggs or sperm have the genetic change. There could be a very low risk of passing on the variant or a very high one. It is hard to detect when someone has germline mosaicism, and we don't know exactly how often it happens. At least one publication reported an estimate of gonadal mosaicism as high as 15% in cases where no variant is found in a parent, and other reports estimate a lower frequency. We got into a little bit of complexity here, but every family situation is unique, and there is a lot more that could be said about the genetics of dystrophinopathy. To learn more, our first recommendation is always your local DMD expert or genetics clinician, like a genetic counselor or a geneticist. One option for finding a genetics expert in the USA or Canada is findageneticcounselor.com, which you can use to search for an in-person or telemedicine provider. The PPMD website has a lot of genetics information, and you're welcome to reach out to the PPMD genetics staff at coordinator@parentprojectmd.org for other genetics questions. We can't serve as your clinician, but we may be able to answer your questions or direct you to a clinician who can. Let us know how we can support you.